Greetings and salutations. My name is Paige Garwood, and you have probably seen some of my podcasts, and you see me on Facebook. Well, I'm starting a new venture that I'm very, very excited about. I've written my first book. It's the first book in a series, I hope, and it details my adventures on the other side of death's door. What happens when we go to heaven? Well, I've been giving it a lot of thought. And as I'm now in the book of Revelation in my podcast, it's really piqued my curiosity about what I really think happens on the other side of death's curtain. I've called this first story Going Home. And in this very first chapter, which I'm going to give you a sneak preview of, it details what it was like for me to go home. I hope you like what you hear. I will be publishing the book within the next couple of months, and if you would like to keep up with me and my progress on it, the publishing process, well, hey, go to patreon.com/coffeebiblepage, or you can go visit my website, coffeebiblepage.com. Leave me a message. You can email me at ffog@me.com. Or you can contact me on Facebook. But I would love to have you listen to this and give me your opinion. Drop a message on Facebook or email me, as I said. And hey, God bless you. Have a wonderful and fabulous day. Bye-bye. Now, here's the prologue and chapter 1 of my new book, Going Home. This book is based on 3 dreams I had in the past. All 3 were very detailed. So detailed that I can remember the entire sequence of dreams decades later. Of course, it's a total work of fiction, but it does reflect much of the current state of my theology, along with a great deal of what I hope can be called some holy storytelling. I've always loved a good story, and as I am now approaching my 69th year on this mudball we call Earth, my thoughts more and more turn to what is next for me. I have accomplished everything I can think of needing to be accomplished in my life. My children are grown. They love Jesus. My grandchildren love Jesus. I'm retired from corporate America and into a secondary career giving private music lessons that allow me to impact even more lives for Jesus. I have never been in a better place in my life. I hope you enjoy this book for what it is, not for what it isn't. I'm not trying to answer every eschatological puzzle, but as I have what I like to call a free-range imagination, I'm giving voice to what I think about a few things. You may or may not agree. I'm good either way. At the end of it all, I hope you enjoy what you read here. That would give me the greatest joy. I hope you will join me at my cabin in heaven someday. In his grip, Paige. Chapter 1. The journey begins. It was a glorious day for my wife and I. We loved teaching music lessons, but we were exhausted when we got home. After dinner, we settled into our usual routine, watching TV, sharing stories about our students, and generally unwinding from the day's activities. Maddie, our miniature poodle, demanded her usual game of fetch the pink tire. As always, we laughed at her antics. Eventually she tired, curling up in Glenda's lap, content and ready for bed. Suppressing a yawn, I said, I think I'm going to turn in. I'm exhausted. This whole getting old routine is, well, getting old. We both laughed at that. Glenda decided to stay up a bit longer to finish the TV show we'd been watching, a documentary. I stretched and said, "It's been a long day, but a good day. I love you." I kissed her good night, patted Maddie on her tiny head, and went to bed. Sleep took me quickly, deep, heavy, and absolute. I knew it was a deep sleep because the dream that followed was vivid, the kind that felt more real than reality itself, the kind where you know you're dreaming, except something about this dream was different. It was nearly identical to a dream I'd had years ago. In that dream, an angel had guided me down a quiet path through an alpine forest leading to a secluded log cabin. This path felt the same, exactly the same. To my right, a brook bubbled softly just as I remembered. In the distance, a lake shimmered under the sky, and the haunting calls of loons echoed in the crisp air. Every detail precisely as before. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a memory of that old dream. I was back in that dream. But there was one difference. The first time, my guide had been an enormous angel, towering, majestic. Now he was different. He was my height, dressed in jeans, sturdy shoes, and a plaid shirt, the perfect outdoorsman for this mountain setting. Yet I somehow knew he was the same angel from before. I braced myself, already anticipating what would come next. We'd round a bend, and to the left I'd see, yes, there it was, the cabin, just as I remembered. 2 stories, a massive wraparound porch, and inside I knew I'd find a grand stone fireplace, rustic log furniture, and a guitar leaning against the wall to my right as I entered. In the original dream, I had reached for that guitar, then everything had faded and I'd woken up. Now, as I stood there, watching the dream unfold in perfect repetition, one question gnawed at me. Why? Why was I here again? What was so important that I needed to relive this dream, this moment? Just like in my previous dream, my guide led me up to the wide wooden porch. He stepped ahead, opening the door and motioning for me to enter first. The moment I crossed the threshold, a wave of familiarity washed over me. The stone fireplace stood proudly against the far wall. The open beam ceiling stretched high above, and the loft overlooked the space just as I remembered. The rustic log table and sturdy benches sat in their places, unchanged. I turned and stepped back onto the porch, taking in its vastness as it wrapped around the entire cabin, and the view, breathtaking. Snow-capped mountains loomed in the distance, their peaks glistening under the sunlight. Below, the lake shimmered, its surface rippling under a gentle breeze. The haunting call of loons echoed across the water, mingling with the crisp scent of wildflowers and pine trees. It was exactly as it had been in that long-ago dream, but this time something felt different, something deeper. This dream was growing more surreal by the second. Stepping back inside, I found my guide leaning casually against the wall, his arms crossed, amusement dancing in his eyes. The faint lines around them crinkled slightly as he nodded toward the far wall. My gaze followed, and there it was, the guitar. Just like before, it stood against the wall, its design unmistakably Martinesque, though no name graced the headstock. A flicker of disappointment stirred within me. This is where the dream had ended last time. Just as I reached for the guitar, I had woken up, left with nothing but the echo of its presence in my mind. A strange sensation to be recalling another dream while standing within this one, but, well, dreams have a way of blurring reality, don't they? I looked from the guitar to my guide. He gave a slight smile, then gestured toward it, silently encouraging me to play. I hesitated. But the pull was too strong. I had to do it, even if it meant waking up. Slowly I walked over, pausing for a moment to admire the instrument up close. Then with a deep breath, I reached out, fingers curling around its neck. And I didn't wake up. I settled onto the bench at the log table, cradling the guitar as I played a few chords, then a few single notes. The sound was exquisite, rich, resonant, almost otherworldly. Slowly, I leaned the guitar back against the wall where I had found it and turned to my guide. Well, this is usually where I wake up, I said. He simply smiled, saying nothing. I pressed on. I've dreamed of this place before, you know. And this guitar? It was in my dream. But back then, my guide was an angel. Bigger than you. No offense, but he was a lot bigger than you. His smile widened slightly before he finally spoke. To be honest, sometimes we are like that, especially when we need to make an impression. But we're not always that way. Hardly daring to believe what I was seeing and hearing, I gestured around us. All of this, I said, my hand sweeping through the air. What does it mean? His eyes held mine as he answered, Paige, you're home. The words sent a shiver through me. He continued, That dream you had years ago? This is the end of that dream. And the beginning of another, if you will. I swallowed hard, my pulse quickening. Do you remember when he told his disciples that he had to leave to prepare a place for them? My guide asked. Well, this is his place for you. The one he prepared just for you. That dream you had? Consider it a preview of coming attractions. Then with a deliberate slowness, he repeated the words that both thrilled and stunned me. Paige, you're home. I took a shaky breath, absorbing the enormity of what he was saying. It was overwhelming, exhilarating, terrifying. And yet, I had to ask the question that loomed over everything else. After several false starts, my mouth opening and closing uselessly, I finally managed to choke it out. Am I dead? My guide threw his head back and laughed, his entire face lighting up. Yes and no, he said. Paige, you're more alive than you've ever been. When you lived in the Shadowlands, you were far less alive than you are now. The Shadowlands. That word sent a shudder through me. I barely had time to process it before another thought struck me with full force. My voice wavered as I asked, But what about Glenda? My children, my grandchildren? His expression softened. God will take care of them, just as he took care of you. And you will see them again sooner than you think. But for now, Paige, he spread his arms wide as if to encompass the entire world around me. You're home. The weight of his words settled over me like a blanket. My mind struggled to catch up. This was nothing like I had imagined heaven to be. It was better, richer, more real. I had so many questions. Too many. My legs felt weak, and I dropped onto the bench, my head spinning. But what does all this mean? I whispered. What happens next? My guide, or my angel, because that's how I was already beginning to think of him, offered me a reassuring smile. Paige, relax. There will be things to do in time, but for now, you've earned your rest, free from everything the Shadowlands placed on you. The enemy of your soul, he's not here. He won't be here. He can't be here. Then just as abruptly, he changed the subject. Tell me, have you noticed anything peculiar since you arrived? Embarrassed, I muttered, No, I haven't. Though my inside voice was practically screaming, You mean like the fact that I've died and gone to heaven? The angel smiled again, and for a brief moment I wondered, had he heard my inside voice? He simply said, Close your eyes. Listen. I hesitated, searching his face. He gave me a reassuring nod. Go on, he encouraged. Just close your eyes. So I did. At first, I only heard the gentle rustling of the leaves in the breeze, the soft babbling of the brook, the distant, haunting cry of a loon over the water. But then slowly, ever so slowly, I became aware of something else. Beneath the natural symphony of the forest and the lake, there was music. It was subtle at first, a whisper woven into the air, but then it grew soft, rich, and utterly mesmerizing. It wasn't just a song. It was the song. captivating, glorious, and unlike anything I'd ever heard. I opened my eyes, and before I even spoke, I felt the wet warmth of tears trailing down my face. The angel was watching me, smiling, his eyes filled with laughter. "Did you hear it?" he asked. I nodded, my voice barely a breath. Yes. There's music everywhere. And it's gorgeous. My words trailed off as awe overtook me. He tilted his head slightly. "Do you know why?" I swallowed, still overwhelmed. "No." He took a step closer. "Paige, when you lived in the Shadowlands, what were you? What did you do?" I blinked, struggling to process everything. Of course he already knew the answer. But I was so overwhelmed that he had to guide me gently, like a child finding their way. I was a music teacher," I finally said. I played music at my church. I played... And my voice trailed off into a whisper. He nodded. "You were a musician then, and you're a musician now. That hasn't changed. You'll always be what he created you to be. The music you made in the Shadowlands was just a glimpse, a reflection of the music you'll create now. What you just heard," he smiled, "that is the music your father wanted you to hear all along." I swallowed hard, my mind racing. "But what do I bring to all of this? Why would my music be needed here of all places?" "Paige," he said, "music is needed everywhere, especially here. The music you create will accomplish things beyond anything you could have imagined. And you're not alone. There are many musicians here. God has a glorious plan, and you are an important part of it." He continued, his voice steady and sure. "Think back. How many times did you sit down to compose a song, an orchestral piece, a choral arrangement? How many times did you pour yourself into your music only to be left disappointed because it never quite matched the sound you first heard in your head? That frustration, that struggle, it wasn't just human limitation. In the Shadowlands, your music was constantly under attack, disrupted by the enemy of your soul and his unholy minions. But here," his eyes shone, "here, there is no interference, no hindrance. Here you will hear the songs of the Savior clearly, purely, without distraction, and you will make them your own." I must have still looked uncertain because he laughed a warm, rich sound. "Don't worry," he assured me. "It will all make sense in time. For now, as a reward for enduring the Shadowlands and staying faithful to him, you have been given a well-earned rest. Enjoy the home he has prepared for you, Paige. You'll see him soon, very soon. But for now," he placed a hand on my shoulder, his voice filled with kindness, "Paige, welcome home." And then he turned, walked through the door, and simply disappeared. And I didn't wake up.